Shove it, man!
Okay, welcome back to the Shove It Show. Today we're going to be doing something a bit new. It's a new series called Was It Any Good? We're going to be taking a look back at some of the most famous wrestlers with our 2022 glasses on. We're going to look at the fan reactions, the promos, the characters and the star power these guys had, with the end goal of finding out, was it any good? Today's video was a Patreon request by Big Shane Banner. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up today. Let's try and get today's video over with as quickly as possible because it's 10 PM and it's still like 23 degrees in here. I just got back from the gym and I'm dying in this little room. I thought this would be an interesting first video to make because you only really hear negative stuff about Steve Austin's WCW run. Stone Cold obviously went on to be massive in the wrestling industry, but we need to remove hindsight from today's video. We need to judge him based purely on what we see today. I want to see if we agree with the leader of the Grey Crew's decision to fire him. Remember, it takes more than just wrestling ability to be a star in this business, especially during the Attitude Era. You had to have real crossover appeal. So let's see if we can see any signs of that with Stone Cold in the WCW. This was before my time as a wrestling fan, and it was probably before a lot of your times as well, so we might be seeing some new stuff here today and learning a bit. Alright, enough talking. So off we go to June 1991 for his televised WCW debut. His ring name is Stunning Steve. The first thing I've noticed is it feels like he's trying to be Ric Flair. He has the music, the slow walk, the long blonde hair, and the robe. He's got a manager called Vivacious Veronica who seems to be doing the talking for him. The WCW crowd are in silence, and he's not interacting with them either. We'll see if that improves as we go along. After only one match, Veronica has switched with Austin's girlfriend at the time in real life and future wife, Lady Blossom. Randomly, he captured the television title in only his second televised appearance. It was such a dumb title win too. His manager, Lady Blossom, climbed into the ring and grabbed Eaton's eyelids. Austin wins with a roll-up with the ref seeing it all. Eaton didn't see any of it though. Nearly all of these early matches have Austin relying on so much help from his manager. It almost comes off like she has more balls than he does. He also wins matches around this time using brass knuckles. Austin just keeps hold of the TV title despite being seconds away from losing it time and time again. Austin goes on to join Paul Heyman's Dangerous Alliance faction. I still haven't had a chance to hear him cut a promo, it's been half a year. It's weird he's been pushed so hard as the TV champion, but to my knowledge he hasn't even cut a promo. So that ends 1991, and so far, is it any good? No it's not. And he's only had a couple of decent matches, and even they've been ruined by the finishes, which make Austin look like a paper champion.
Lady Blossom here. Beautiful, Bobby Eaton. Now let's just stop right there.
Lady Blossom got pregnant, so she retired from WCW. Maybe Austin will get a chance to talk now. Nope. So many matches still ending with a DQ loss for Austin. I still have no idea what his finisher even is. Well, I think it's the stun gun, but it never seems to finish any matches. So whenever someone drops someone across the ropes face first, you can thank Stunning Steve. Wow, I finally get to hear Austin talk. It's almost been a year since his debut. Well, you can hear his cool accent, but his voice is a lot softer. He's missing energy, and I don't believe that he believes in what he's saying. His booking remains weak. Every single match is a draw or a DQ loss. At least he's had a haircut though. Those receding grease locks weren't making any ladies talk. Austin lost his TV belt to Barry Windham, ending his first TV title reign at 329 days. Just 26 days later, Austin recaptured the television title for Windham. Not sure what the point in any of that was. We do actually get to see Austin doing a forward roll in this match, which is something he's not known for. Jesus Christ, you thought the last title win was bad. This one's even worse. He smashes Windham in the face with the belt with the ref stood right next to them. The refs in WCW must be blind. His second reign seems to be going a bit better. He's starting to show a bit more personality, his facial expressions are better, and it seems to be since he's been working a lot with Steamboat. You've also got to think his close association with Paul Heyman was helping. He lost that belt to Ricky Steamboat after 102 days. This match was a lot of fun. I haven't even really enjoyed his wrestling skills much, but this match might be a sign that this is about to change. It was just later that same month when things would drastically change in a different direction for Austin. With the Dangerous Alliance disbanding, he was randomly paired up with Flying Brian Pillman, who funnily enough was another great promo. It's funny how things go. It feels like cutting a good promo was a necessity back in the day. Do you know what? It's been 3 months and they still haven't been given a tag team name. Austin's early promos are so bad with Pillman. Austin stumbling over his words and lacking intensity. I haven't really seen any evidence that he was going to turn into a star based on anything I've seen. He's pretty boring in fact. After teaming for about 5 months, they finally captured the tag titles by defeating Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas. The match is apparently really good, but I've only been able to find the final part of it in poor quality. Of course, they won by cheating because this is Steve Austin in WCW and he's a heel. The next night from their tag title victory, they start referring to themselves as the Hollywood Blondes, the tag team of the 90s. Austin pretends he has a wind-up camera, but it's 2022 and I don't know what that is. They also debut a new double team finisher, which was a diving double splash. It's weird seeing Austin come off the top like this. Things were slowly starting to change in WCW. Nothing that would threaten Austin too much quite yet, but the signs were there. The Blondes do this parody segment where they make fun of Ric Flair's age. Pillman's dressed up as Ric Flair and Austin's being himself. Austin throws a handful of pills into Pillman's mouth. Austin goes on to make fun of Arn Anderson and said last time he saw a body like Arn Anderson's, it had an apple in its mouth and was roasting over an open flame. Probably the first witty line from him in this entire video. It only took 2 years. On a side note, isn't it so weird seeing Ric Flair having his age made fun of in 1993? And he's talking about a return 30 years after this. Jesus Christ. Wrestlers must have retired at a much younger age back in the day. Now they're not allowed to retire because there's no other stars left. Things seem to be going way too easy for the Hollywood Blondes, but that all changes when Pillman injures his leg and has to be substituted for Regal as they unfairly have to defend their tag belts. And of course, they lose them to Roma and Anderson. Yet again, another ugly ending to the match, but that's not Austin's fault. Steve Austin reveals he's going to be trying to focus on capturing the US title whilst Pillman is recovering. During this time, he's also approached by Colonel Parker, who wants to be his manager, which Austin rejects. He says that he's already a star and he doesn't need any help. The Blondes do briefly reunite before Colonel Parker breaks them up. He calls Pillman a lame racehorse with a bad leg which needs a trip to the glue factory. Pillman goes berserk at him, causing Austin to beat up Pillman and bringing the Hollywood Blondes to an end after 9 months. Austin has said since that he was confused why they were split up so early and he thinks it was for political reasons. It was probably because of those Ric Flair imitations. You'd think this would lead to an intense feud between the Hollywood Blondes. Instead, Steve just looks like a goofball as he's talked up by Parker at every chance. He's all grinning and so happy to be praised by this old man. So lame. It was more like a feud between Parker and Pillman anyway. Austin continues to have so many 2 out of 3 Falls matches in WCW, and one of these at Starrcade 93 was where he captures the US heavyweight title from Dustin Rhodes. The Blondes also had their one-on-one match, but it wasn't even on pay-per-view and it was pointless. Austin loses it. So the wrestling remains good for 1993, and he holds on to the US title for a very long time. During this run, Stone Cold was in the first ever bra and panties match. Sorry, I read that wrong. I meant a tuxedo match, but it's the same concept. He faced Johnny B. Bad and stunning Steve wore a little bow tie. Isn't that cute? Austin only wins this match because Colonel Parker yanks Johnny B. Bad's knickers down. All that's left as we go into 1994 is actually some good stuff. Austin starts feuding with Steamboat, and as established earlier, they do some good stuff together. During this time, we get to see glimpses of the future Stone Cold Steve Austin. In one promo, he calls Ricky Steamboat a piece of trash.
The whole facade, the stupid little lizard pipes, he spits the fire. Who cares? As far as I'm concerned, Ricky Steamboat can do all the stupid little tricks he wants to do.
Hold on!
Oh, come on out here, you old piece of trash!
He looks intensely into the camera while he does this. I finally believe in what he's saying as he throws insults about randomly. It's possible that he's just getting sick of the politics that's going on in WCW and he's almost letting his emotions affect his promo as he channels his frustrations. He finally loses the title to the Dragon at Clash of Champions 28, ending his reign at 240 days. Austin gets the title back quickly though because Steamboat gets injured. Another glimpse of the future Stone Cold now as he calls Steamboat a mealy-mouthed Hawaiian punk. Then Hacksaw Jim Duggan comes out and beats him for the belt in 30 seconds. Oh. Austin is also scared of Duggan and didn't want to face him. Duggan beats him again on pay-per-view and Steve Austin looks like a complete goofball. And if you possibly had any doubts that it was just an upset, WCW confirmed what they thought of stunning Steve Austin on the next Clash of Champions. To this match, Austin wears a pair of cheap-looking trunks which say US Champ on them. The match goes for 1 minute before Vader runs out and Hacksaw chases them both away with his little stick. And that leaves me to the perfect place to leave this video. In his second to last match in WCW, he lost to Macho Man Randy Savage in 2 minutes. This perfectly highlights the point I want to make. When Austin was in WCW at the start, there wasn't that many stars, so it was easier to give him a push. But by 1995, you now have Ric Flair, Hogan, Savage, Sting, Vader, and apparently they saw Jim Duggan ahead of him too. They viewed Austin as a nobody and wouldn't give him the time of day because he'd never done anything outside of WCW. During his time in WCW, he didn't get a single world title shot. Austin would get an injury and Bischoff would fire him as he didn't see any money in him. And it's up to us now to decide if Bischoff was right to make that decision based on the evidence in this video. Remember, we cannot use hindsight when making our decision. We have to use the video evidence that we've seen today. I saw a lot of Stone Cold wrestling in WCW, but I didn't see a hell of a lot else, to be perfectly honest. He wrestled so many matches too. He was like the king of the 2 out of 3 Falls match. But I hate to say it, to be honest, I got a bit bored at times today. I know, it's a different era and wrestling was slower back then. But I'm sorry, I can't help it. I mean, just look at the crowd. They didn't care either. It did admittedly improve when the Hollywood Blondes came onto the scene. The fans did buy into that act. But then they ended it straight away. I mean, that's not Austin's fault, is it? They only wound for like 8 months or something. So really, all we were left with was a sound wrestler who could cut a stuttering promo. By the end of 1995, he did start to unleash a bit of his anger on the mic, and we got to see a bit more from him and go on to be the future Stone Cold character that we'd know and love. But his booking had completely flipped, and he was now treated as a joke in the ring. I guess it's always going to come down to what you want to see in your wrestling. But the Hawk, personally, I use 4 things. You hear that? 4. If you're from Bridgewater, you hold your whole hand up. Wrestling skill, promos, fan reaction, and character. That's what I'm looking for. I mean, that's essentially what got him to be a star in the WWE if you think about it. I can honestly say that for the majority of this video we only had wrestling ability, and then we got a bit of promo stuff coming in towards the end. And you can't argue he wasn't pushed, because he was. He had like 3 titles and he was wrestling all the time. He had TV time, he didn't necessarily have mic time, but he had a lot of time in the ring to try and get himself over with the fans. And I'm not sure he did that. So it's a tough one to answer, because he was really good in the ring, especially for the time. And it was great seeing Austin do a few more moves I wasn't used to seeing him do. Obviously he got injured and he couldn't do a lot more of those moves in the WWF. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have fired a guy like Bischoff. You could see the fire in his eyes in those promos to know there was something going on there. So was it any good? What is the dictionary definition of good? The definition of good is something to be admired or something of a high standard. Okay, fine, that helps me decide. Steve Austin in the WCW, was it any good? No. No, it wasn't. And here's why. I'm sorry, but his promo skills were just not up to scratch. His character sucked. He was mostly a goofball in the WCW. He was far from the Stone Cold Steve Austin we go on to know and love. There's plenty of wrestlers today who could put on great 30-minute matches. That doesn't mean I like them or I think they're good. But personally, the Hawk needs to see a little bit more. And I'm not talking about your girl when I want to see more. So try not to get too angry or I'll make your girl beg and plead.